streaming. I got to come up with a song to sing because it goes live before I think it goes live. So, hey, hey, folks, guess who's here? It's the fab instructors from GCS, Guitar Cloud Symposium. We need our own theme song. Gretchen, you're the composer. You and Daniele, you should come up with a theme song.
He'll come up with something something really octatonic sounding.
No.
Octatonic.
Augmented.
Yeah.
Or interaction between octatonic and full tone and hexatonic, augmented.
Real earworm,
interaction.
You know, I got to warn you, I have a 3-syllable limit. Yeah, we got to dumb it down for the red white head. Red, white, and yeah. Hey, Globe. JB in the house. Jennifer Batten here. We're just talking all kinds of shit. We are here to talk about the incredible event that we have coming up this weekend, starting Friday. Guitar Cloud Symposium is doing number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we are expanding. We have more instructors than you see here because poor David Wallimann, who will be teaching this weekend, you know, the United States is under storm threat, and there's like feet of snow in Texas, and he's in Colorado, and he went to the studio this morning to do his usual YouTube video recording, and it was flooded. And I know he's got lots of pedals, so I pray for the pedals. Shall we have a group prayer for the pedals?
Moment of silence.
You can do it all in Italian, yeah.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra tutte le donne.
That was really worth bringing up just to hear that. That was fantastic. You know, when I was working with Cirque du Soleil, there were several people in Vegas with me that were from Montreal. And they used to have all these French sayings for expletives. It just reminded me of that. I love that. So we would like to tell you what's happening. And I'll tell you a little bit later about what David Wallimann is teaching, and Mark Lettieri is not here tonight. He's off doing some snarky puppy stuff. He's off snarking. Mark's off snarking again. And Nili Brosh is off doing other things as well, but they will all be online at Guitar Cloud Symposium this weekend. We start Friday night with an orientation where I explain what the stuff is about and introduce all the teachers and talk about the fabulous sponsors like Positive Grid, our presenting sponsor that's given away one of these to one of the lucky students. We got Luna guitar giveaway, a Tonewood-amp giveaway. There's so much stuff, but I'm going to tease you and not tell you about it all right now. I would like to go around and introduce you. Let me introduce you to Vicki Genfan. Tell them what you're going to be teaching, madam.
Hey, everybody. We are so excited about this weekend. So I'm going to be teaching open tuning something or other. It's actually not an open tuning module. It's a percussive module. And I was really excited to find in my preparation, I found a video by a guy named Bucka White, and he's an old blues guy. And he's playing a resonator guitar. And lo and behold, in the middle of the song, he starts beating on the resonator with his hands. And I was like, oh no, it was so great. So people have been beating on their guitars for a long time. And I'm going to share some of that beating on your guitar with you. For those of you that might have been to previous symposiums, I'm going to do what we did. We're going to review what we've done, but I'm going to take it a little bit further. And I dug into Andy McKee's drifting introduction, which meant I had to spend a lot of time beating my guitar with different hands than I'm used to. It was really crazy, but that's going to be fun to share with you. I'm doing a finger picking fundamentals, also going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to show you some great, just new cool things you can do with finger picking to broaden up your palette and speak different languages while you finger pick. And then I'm going to be doing a third one on something. What's my third one is going to be on, you know, when you spend hours and hours prepping, your brain just kind of like, so, yeah, jamming in open D. Why even bother? Well, I'm an open tuning nutcase, basically. I play in 37 open tunings, and we're just going to play. We're going to fool around. I'm going to show you some patterns, some scales, some thirds and sixths and pentatonics. And maybe you like playing in open tunings, and maybe you just want to be able to fill in some little fills here and there, or do some things. It's not to take the place of your soloing, but it could be a really fun thing to bring in to your toolbox. So that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. And also, I can't wait to be sitting in on everyone else's stuff. So.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about having such a wide variety of players that are into different bags, because it just inspires you. I guarantee everybody that joins this weekend and all of our symposiums, there's going to be something, and probably a whole lot of somethings that you've never done before, or you've never thought about things in this way before. And it's so cool for us, as the same thing, like you discovered Bucka White, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think I heard that name. As I'm digging deeper into my stuff, I'm finding new things that I didn't know. It really energizes me to want to share the stuff. So anybody that's out there watching, we are here to answer your questions. Anything about the Guitar Cloud Symposium, about any of the players. Nili Brosh is not here right now, but will be this weekend. And Mark Lettieri, David Wallimann. We got the family is expanding. We're going to have to bust through the ceiling and create more rooms. We're coming from all over the planet, like Colorado, North Carolina, San Francisco. I'm in Portland. Mark is down in the snowstorm in Fort Worth right now. In fact, I heard from him today, and I was amazed he could get internet. Yeah. In fact, it might have only been his phone, because so many people, the power is out. Knock on wood. That is the worst. When the power is out, it's like your life just goes to hell. I can't get online. Life is over as we know it, kind of a thing. It's bad to the bone. Gretchen, you have been prepping some new stuff for this weekend.
I have. In fact, I just finished recording a brand new piece that I wrote specifically for this symposium, because one of the pledges I made is that I'm going to always try to teach new material. We didn't expect to have so many repeat offenders, but we love that we do. And so until I don't know anything else, or until I can't keep up with how fast students are learning, I'm just going to teach new stuff. But one of the things that I think students in the past have said that they liked was some of this like harmonic and harp harmonic technique stuff. So I wrote a piece specifically as an etude for this upcoming symposium. I'm going to release the video of it tomorrow, and I have all of the transcription in the course materials, although I have to make an edit because I changed it when I went to play it. So I'm going to be teaching that. And the idea is that it's an etude, but it also kind of sounds like a little mini piece. It's like a minute long. And that's what I'm going to be using the piece to teach the technique, because it's got a little bit of all the different stuff I want to touch on. So that's sort of level 3 of harmonic stuff. And then I'm going to be teaching about developing your ear, like so many strategies for ear training. And some of it is kind of jumping off where Jennifer talks always about the app Transcribe, which I agree. Like if you and Transcribe weren't already married, and if I weren't already married to Daniele, I too would want to marry Transcribe. But we all can. Let's just all do it. Yeah. But I'll be talking about different ways that I found to be beneficial for training your ear in different situations. You know, some people think they've got to have a piano, or they've got to have all these, you know, fancy things. And sometimes it's as simple as like a practice drone and being alone in your car and being able to sing scales and arpeggios. So I'm going to talk about all these different ways, and then I'll talk about sort of like my 4 or 5 favorite essential ways. And then I'm going to be talking about modes and hopefully demystifying them a little, and teaching them in a way that I don't hear taught as often, but I think having come at it from the way it's typically taught to trying to use modes more in an actual playing situation, teaching it in a way that I think is more useful and more practical. So That's when, and Vicki, I can't wait for your percussive techniques thing. I was actually thinking about this because I was hilariously trying to come up with something like this on this new acoustic Gibson that I have, and it sounded ridiculous. So I was like, oh, I can't wait. Vicki's like the expert, and I know her, and I'm gonna take her module. So I'm gonna be there for sure with my acoustic ready to smack the guitar a bit.
Awesome.
You know what? Why don't you talk about that video that you just put up online that I was raving about, because it looks so good, playing a Led Zeppelin track. Which, why do you know how to pronounce that for starters?
Wait, Broniar?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's right. You know what? It's funny. Like, I had this little crisis after I shot the video. I'm like, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. Is every Led Zeppelin fan in the world going to call me out as like a complete fraud now? So I don't know. That's just how I've always pronounced it. In fact, speaking of Led Zeppelin pronunciations, you know, there's a song on Houses of the Holy that I always heard pronounced like, wait, how did I hear it pronounced? Dire Maker.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until somebody told me the story, that it's actually based on like, it's pronounced Jamaica, like because it's got the reggae feel, and it's based on a joke. And it said, and it's based on a joke, with a certain type of British accent. And apparently it's like, oh, my wife went to the Caribbean. Oh, Jamaica? No, she went voluntarily. So, and I'm sure a terrible British accent, but that's how it's supposed to go. So I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but yeah, it was this video. I partnered with Guitar World and with Bose to sort of like do some demos for them, and they wanted me to do a PA. And initially I always try to talk people out of giving me cool gigs. I don't know why, but I did. I was like, I don't really know anything about this. I never set up a PA. I don't know, like, I don't use them. Any more so than I stand on stage and somebody else does it for me. But they were like, no, we think you can do this. So I thought, okay, at least I can speak to the ease of use of it. So I kind of timed myself when I tried to just take the angle of, hey, if you don't know anything about PAs, here's how you can do it. And I thought, if there's anything I can really speak to in terms of how something sounds, it's Led Zeppelin material. That's what I play a lot. And so I just thought, okay, I'll do this, and I'll bring Daniele in so we can have some electric guitar as well as some acoustic stuff. So that's what just came out today.
Yeah, it's a brilliant video. I'd recommend everybody check it out. And you were just talking about trying to talk people out of gigs, and we will answer your questions. I saw a few come by.
Oh yeah.
It just reminded me of a gig I did a couple of years ago that was at a sound engineering school in Paris. And I thought, I was telling them, I can record myself, but I am not an expert at record engineering, and I don't think you really want me. And it turns out that the guy that ran the school was kind of a fan, or Michael Jackson fan, or Jeff Beck or something, and he insisted that I come over. So I go, okay, well, I really put something together where I could talk about my guitar sounds, and I got all the tracks that had the most effects and stuff in them. And then the airlines sent my stuff to Timbuktu, and I showed up with nothing. It was just awful. It was just awful. So I scrambled and got a few videos of me playing stuff online, and it should have sounded like this and that. It turned out okay, and I was not the right call for the gig. But it's one of those things when you're put in those situations. Sometimes things just pop, and it ends up going in a flow, and you're guided to a whole other place. So Daniele, somebody was asking about your right hand technique.
Yeah,
I should introduce Daniele Gottardo, and I didn't introduce Gretchen. This is Gretchen Menn, if you didn't know.
Hello. Yeah, okay, let's see. WK Palumbo says, Daniele, how do you develop your right hand so smoothly for your tapping? We all want to know.
Good question. I think little by little, recording myself very often, and listening back and saying, oh my God, sound shit. And then there is something that is not working here. Let me try again, and little by little figuring out, because I'm talking around before YouTube. Is not that there was a lot of video around about 8-finger tapping, and we are talking about a technique, right, Jennifer, that is really is important to see the hand position sometimes in the beginning, at least if you're a beginner. And at the time when I started to play with the right hand, I didn't have videos to see how you can do now. And then it was a lot of figuring out by myself and trying to recording myself a lot and listening and try to working on the articulation to create, as you mentioned, a smooth sound. And but not tricks. I don't know if you, Jennifer, you can add something about developing the right hand.
Yeah, Jennifer was the first one I ever saw do the right hand
Exactly,
stuff.
exactly.
I knew of you, Jennifer, before like Eddie Van Halen and stuff. I like went in reverse. I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm teaching a module in tapping this weekend, and I do, because we do have alumni coming back, and I've taught it before, and we have new people. I'm going to go through the basics, really getting your hand used to doing it, getting calluses on this side for one thing, because that's an eye opener. Most guitar players that play a lot have been playing for so long, you don't realize what it took to get your calluses there. And boy, if you go on vacation without a guitar for a couple of weeks and you come back, it's owie. That's no fun. So developing on virgin fingers on the right hand, if you're not a tapper, can, man, 15, 20 minutes a day, that's max. And that's not what I did. I got so into it. Like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. And then just hours a day until I had blisters and couldn't play for a week. So, yeah, I take you through some very simple things. That's one thing that's really been interesting about teaching virtually is I want to show people these riffs and this is cool and you can turn that into that. But when you have a bunch of people at all different levels, I'm breaking it all down to A minor pentatonic, at least to start. So, you're familiar with that. And even the complicated riffs, I'm not going to take you through the whole thing. I have it written out so you can see it afterwards. We all have folders of materials that people can spend plenty of time. Oh, there's so much material. It's crazy. And plus, I made a bunch of videos to go with the score. Would you call it a score if it's just riffs? I asked these educated people.
Sure, if it's notated on a staff, I call
notation. That would be the more proper term for it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm stepping it up. I didn't even do that in the beginning. When we launched that last August, I go, here's a bunch of videos. Here's what I did. And I slow it down and everything. But some people wanted it on standard notation and tab. So I have suffered through making that happen. It's, in fact, the tapping one, I was watching TV last night because I had to sit there and put a T on every right hand nut and hit the note, hit the T, hit the note, hit the T. It's like 45,000 later. There you go. So
I want to move that we just make a certain note head be a tapped note. Like we have like the little diamond note head for harmonics. I just think that tap notes shouldn't require that much extra stuff, especially watching you and knowing what you
I
do.
like to put a circle.
A circle.
Yeah.
A circle around the note.
But it's
yeah. Well, I'm working with Guitar Pro, and they didn't have that. When I first started tapping and I was writing it out, I would put a box around them all, and it's just so obvious what is right and what is left. But I digress. Well, since I'm talking about me, I'll continue talking about me and what I'm teaching. I'm getting deeper into intervallics, and I've discovered some cool stuff. But you have to sign up to GuitarCloudSymposium to find out what it's about. There's actually some really exciting stuff. And I found, I found an incredible, I should memorize the guy's last name, but it goes past 3 syllables, so that's not going to happen. I have this amazing bass player playing the funkiest freedom jazz dance. And I'm mainly going in fourths and fifths, and just trying to expand people beyond playing seconds and thirds, just to open up their playing and give them new ideas. So I'm digging deeper into that. and I guess some Joe DiOrio stuff. He's the guy that turned me on to Intervallics, just a monstrous player. And it's kind of like a family tree that started with Nicholas Slanimsky, and then he wrote this book on intervallics and wackiness, the thesaurus of scales and melodic patterns, that totally was collecting dust. Nobody got it. And then John Coltrane picked it up, and then Frank Zappa and Eddie Harris, and the lineage comes down. Carl Verheyen, he did a whole course on it. I didn't even realize. So there's a lot of fun to share. And I told you, Gretchen, I was going to teach transcribe this time, and I forgot. I'm going to be teaching that in March. And
not this time then.
Yeah, in March, I got a whole other crew happening for a 1-day deep dive. So we do these 4-day things every other month, and in between, it's a single-day deep dive on a long Saturday. And Pete Thorne is going to join us, it's really great. I met him when he was just a very young Canadian, had just come to America, and he was in my class at Musicians Institute. And it's so fun to see how far he's come. I mean, he's just one of those cats that knows everything about tone. He has his YouTube channel every Sunday, 11 o'clock. He's got a cup of coffee, and he'll hang for 2 hours and answer questions. It's an incredible resource that, man, if I had that when I was 14, 15, that would have been amazing. So, yeah, and Kat Dyson from Prince's band and Cyndi Lauper is going to be doing that deep dive. And Jason Fellman, a buddy of mine that's a great booking agent for the Northwest that knows all kind of business. And I'm starting to bring special guests into the deep dives as well. So a buddy of mine, Mundo Julerat, he's been working in Las Vegas for years now. He's done the theater shows, the Cirque du Soleil kind of shows, and he showed me the ropes. I was scared of theater shows, and he took me down in the orchestra pit one time when he was doing an ABBA show, and it was really daunting. You got the conductor down there and players all over the place and sheet music that just scrolls on for days. And it was so enlightening to see that. And I thought it would be really cool probably most people have not done those shows. I mean, most people that have played live and have been on stage have not done theater shows. So to have him to ask questions too, boy, my language is leaving early, Vicki. I'm good for about 20 minutes, and then my words start to scramble. So yeah, intervallics, tapping, and whammy bar and whammy pedal. I'll be getting into details about that for expressiveness. So, are there more questions?
Yeah, we do have some questions.
Right.
So here, Daniele's got one. Also, WK Palobo. I don't know what your first name is. I'm just going to call you WK. It says, I'm interested in how Daniele develops his compositions. Do you develop the chord progression first or develop the melody first?
Cool question, this one. I like this question. I need to say that in the recent years, I start from chord movements, chord progressions, especially when I'm searching for some specific sounds that are unique of a composition. And then I like to compose trying to experiment with combination of harmonies that maybe I'm not very familiar with. And then I keep combining till I find something that sounds interesting to me. And at that point, I can build a melody based around the harmonic. Help me, Gretchen.
If
I build the melody. Help me, Gretchen. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, in observing you compose, you're very harmonically driven, very much. Like you're always, once you work out the harmonies, it seems like everything else falls into place. But I think orchestration plays a big part of your compositional process too. It seems like right away, it's like you don't just think like melody and harmony. It's like you kind of have this underlying harmonic framework, and then it's like everything kind of grows from that, like the orchestration, the melodies, all of that. Is that?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I
true.
feel like I see.
Depends which kind of style I'm composing. Recently, I'm doing stuff with chamber orchestra and guitar, and then I think first of the arrangement. Really, the last album I composed that now is finally finished. The record, the mixing and masters are done. 10 pieces, and the guitar parts was composed after the rest was already recorded. I had already the other instruments all recorded, and the guitar I didn't know anything about the guitar. And then I just placed my part on the top of a lot of other stuff, and I composed some melodies against other melodies. But yeah, definitely I like to compose the melody after, because I can came out with something that is more maybe predictable for me. But I also need to say that sometimes when you think of the melody first, maybe is also more strong sometimes in terms of pure melody. It can be more interesting if you come from harmony. It can be more interesting, but doesn't mean that it will be better, you know. Then is always finding a balance in the end of the day.
Okay, a couple other questions. First of all, Werner, who is one of our alums, asked about the tuning for Broniar, which was almost exactly right. But so Vicki, the tuning is C A C G C E. How do you approach a tuning like that? 5 strings of just tonic and dominant notes, although the A makes that, yeah. Just an acoustic power chord. Do you ever use that tuning?
What is it? What's the low note?
C. It's basically standard tuning with every other string tuned to C, starting with a low C and then A and then C and then G and then C and then E.
Yeah. The way I approach tunings is I put the guitar in my hand. I don't really ever think about what do I have until later. You know, and that's just how I do it. And I know a lot of people want to know, oh, well, you've got roots and you've got a fifth and a third and an A, which is a sixth. So now what do you do? I don't think about it that way. I just put it in my hands and I go, so I'll do that and I'll get back to you in a minute.
Okay, another question is Anthony writes, if you could go back in time and give yourself advice when you first started playing, what would it be? What would you do differently in regards to learning music and guitar? That is such a great question, Anthony.
I would time travel to now, you know, because back then it was the needle on the record player driving my family up a wall, trying to learn a solo by, going back and back. What patience we had back then. And having the transcribe app now to learn stuff is just, holy crap, night and day different, where you can hit a button, get rid of the bass, hit a button, get rid of the vocal, and hear exactly what's underneath it. Slow it down, loop it, use the speed trainer. Man, I mean, back in my day, before we had shoes, it was a whole other world. And, the people that you had access to were whatever teacher was teaching at the local music shop. You didn't have everybody on the planet online, like Joe Satriani playing Satch Boogie at Guitar Center, where it's such a high-res camera, you can actually download that video, put it into the transcribe app, see exactly what string he's picking, what area of the neck he's on. I would have killed for that kind of stuff when I was a kid. And so I have nothing but remorse.
But you developed patience at the time. Is important. It is an important skill.
Yeah, I don't have that anymore. There's been a few boatloads of caffeine that have gone through my system since then. Yeah, I don't have a lot of patience. It's funny. It depends what it is. If there's something that you're really into and you get into the zone, then you start at noon and then it's midnight. And what happened to the time? I guess that's a form of patience / meditation, really. You know what, Daniele, you were talking about composition, and it reminded me of one of my all-time favorite interviews that was with Bjork. And she said, I love her. Well, I won't say all of her music because some of it's just kind of more different than I care to listen to. but uh, there's several albums that are just fantastic, and they're so quirky, and the sounds are so amazing. And her voice, of course, is like she's from another planet. And she said she spends like 95% of the time on the tracks and the orchestration and exactly what she wants to hear. And when it feels right, she will sing it down once, and that's it. She's inspired. She's in the moment. She's not going to be like a Michael Jackson with 59 tracks of the backing vocals. I thought that was so fascinating, and her whole thing was so insightful because a lot of musicians they can speak through their instrument, but when it comes to making a sentence, it's just not happening. In fact, I enter that zone quite more frequently than I would like to. So Daniele, you spoke about your right hand and tapping. You're also doing sweep picking, or I forgot what else you're doing this weekend.
I'm doing a second episode on chordal tapping, and the other topic is about developing your rhythmic vocabulary on for improvisation, for lead guitar, for single notes, playing basically, and everything. And I will talk about a rhythmic cells, 2-beat. You can have a 2-beat rhythmic cell. You can have a 3-beat, 3/8, wherever, and how to subdivide a couple of beats to digest, to visualize all over the neck, to use in a strict way. I mean, repeating a specific rhythmic cell all over the neck to really visualize it in your mind and be able to play it with a good timing, but also with a good articulation, because obviously we are talking still about lead guitar, and then concept of articulation and notes are there, and then how to use a style within a phrase, a little phrase, a 2-bar phrase, a 3-bar phrase, and a lot of example we do. And I have a specific system to start in a very easy way and to arrive to use to be aware of the rhythms you are playing when you are improvising, not only of the notes.
I'm sure it's going to be great. From the surveys that we've done from your past teaching, people love it. You get an A+.
Thank you
for your
working a lot for this.
While you're talking, do you want to give the advice? Oh, sorry. I was wondering if I thought that question was so good about going back in time and giving yourself advice your first year. I was curious what Vicki and Daniele thought about that. Did you hear that, Vicki? The question of if you could go back in time and give yourself advice when you first started playing, what would it be? What would you do differently in regards to learning music and guitar? Well, I thought that was such a good question.
For me, the first started playing, I was 5 years old, and I don't know that question applies to that version of me, because I was just doing everything I should be doing, which was soaking up everything that anyone was showing me. You know, my dad showed me this, my friend showed me that, and I was just taking it in. You know, where I feel like I could have made a difference for me was that at a certain point I wanted to go off and do my own thing and not study jazz, and I wish I had.
None or start? I don't understand what.
Well, I didn't. I could have made a choice to study jazz, and I went on my own to have a band doing my own original music. But I don't think I was developed enough as a composer.
I understand now. Sorry.
And so I wish I would have taken that step at that point when I was about 18 and formally studied. I don't know what that would have done to my own development of my own style. And maybe it would have cramped it, and I don't know. You know, I wish I would study it now, but I'm a lazy thing, so.
What about you? You could go back in time.
Maybe I was playing even too much, probably. Then maybe if I was going back in time, maybe it was a little bit more relaxed. And cultivate other aspects of my existence.
Oh. Well, okay, now Anthony has a follow-up question, which is, would you focus more on theory or technique learning the notes on the fretboard? I have a thought about this. So Anthony, I learned guitar like super different from most people, which is I was simultaneously studying classical guitar and learning and getting a degree in music theory. So the way I learned guitar primarily was by applying what I was learning in my classical lessons and in my classrooms to the electric guitar. So for my first lesson, for my first like serious lesson, it was pretty much here are the notes on the neck, learn them. And so by the next week, I just learned them. And I think that if there's anything that's like of critical importance, it's like just learn. You don't have to go deep into the geekery of music theory because that's a rabbit hole that's endless. And, you know, I happen to find it a lot of fun. I know you do too. But I think there's just some basic just terminology and knowing your instrument that I'm really glad I did. And in learning just enough theory to feel conversant. Like you don't have to become a professional writer. And yet if you don't learn how to write at all, or if you're illiterate, it doesn't mean you won't have great stuff to say, but you'll always kind of carry that with you. And so I say, learn a little bit of theory and learn the notes on your fretboard and stuff so that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to come up with coping mechanisms, and you've conceptualized your instrument in the way that makes it most easy to communicate your ideas with other musicians. And in terms of what I would do differently, I think the main thing is don't set limitations on yourself that you don't want. I think it's really easy, you know, especially if you have self-loathing tendencies, and to be like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. Oh, I'll never be able to do that. At the end of the day, if you put in the time and you put in the discipline, you will get further. You will get as far in your own way as somebody else who's put in the same amount of time and discipline. You'll still be you. But I think for a long time, I practiced and I played like somebody who wasn't worthy to be practicing or playing, because I was always comparing myself to my heroes. And I think that held me back from really diving in as full force as I think I probably should have, because the love was certainly there.
Yeah, the comparison game is deadly when it comes to the arts. If you feel less than because you're comparing as opposed to inspired by, you know, it's the same input when you're listening to somebody, and if you can turn that into inspiration, then that is incredible fuel, because there's so many wonderful players out there. Speaking of players, Dweezil Zappa. It's one of the bonuses that's happening this weekend. At the end of every Guitar Cloud Symposium, we have a special guest. We had Scott Henderson, Andy Timmons, Steve Vai. God, there's so many now. I'm just losing it. Dweezil's coming up on next Monday. And I was going to say, I just spoke with him today, but it's the 2001 version of Spoke, where you speak with your thumbs on text. So he's going to be, I'm sure, talking about the Running with the Dweezil series that he has, where he interviewed. In fact, he was working on one of the episodes today as I was speaking to him. And he did some really in-depth interviews with all kinds of people, from Nuno to you name it, and on an album. Each person would take an album, and he contacted me, and I said, I want to do, or maybe he listed a couple albums I could do, and I go, it's got to be 1984. It just has to be. Well, so-and-so's doing 1984. it's got to be 1984 because I spent a ridiculous number of hours writing out every solo on that album, and I was just immersed. So I got my wish. Um, no idea when that episode's coming out, but he's going to be hanging out with us. The students get. I mean, when else would you get to hang with people of this level? Like with Steve Vai, he hung out for over 2 hours just talking philosophy, and it was amazing. I mean, he is so deep. It kind of my hair was blonde or dark before that before that hang, and then look what happened. It's just kind of crazy. So that's one of the bonuses, along with all the giveaways. And I'm going to rip through the giveaways. If there's any questions left, we can certainly get to them all and answer all the questions.
Yeah, we got a few. So if you want to do the giveaways or the questions first.
Yeah, I'm going to get into the giveaways. Just because I'm so excited, and I'm talking about the Monday party. And I tell you, it involves some champagne over at this ranch, usually. Or I was thinking of switching to sake this time, because that's actually my fave. It never tastes the same as when you're in Japan, but it'll do. So Positive Grid is giving away a Spark amp. Sweetwater has a $100 gift certificate for some lucky winner. So you get way more than all the content that we share all weekend with 7 instructors and Mark Lettieri from Snarky Puppy that's not here right now, and Nili Brosh and David Wallimann. Fishman has half a dozen clip-on tuners for people. Audix is giving away an i5 mic and a cab grabber. Stage Ninja is giving away these smartphone clamps, which I adore and have at least 6 of. The G7th Capo Company is giving away 3 different colors of capos. Luna Guitars is giving away a gorgeous gypsy zebra-looking guitar, very exotic looking. 7th String is giving away 5 codes to the Transcribe app, the app that we all want to marry. Cordial Cables, pure virgin copper core cables, very high-end cables. A few students are going to get that. Lockett guitar straps. We got 4 straps. You don't need external hardware to keep your guitar safe. Tonewood is giving away an acoustic guitar amp that's a revolutionary design that fits magnetically on an acoustic guitar. So you can be playing at the campfire or at the beach and have reverb and delay and all kinds of fun effects. Guitar Playback is David Wallimann's baby, and he's given away a whole folder of high-res 1-chord jam tracks. Blue Guitar is giving away 4 beautiful t-shirts of their Amp 1 amp. And TrueFire.com, Vicki and I both have recorded lots of courses with TrueFire, and they're giving away free 90-day access pass to all students. So all students are getting the guitar playback, backing tracks, and the 90-day access to TrueFire. And there's plenty of other lucky winners that are going to walk away with so much cool stuff. Besides, you're going to have to get another hat. You know, when we're done, your brain is going to be so expanded, you're going to be ripping out of your caps. So that's all I got to say about that.
Well, and I just want to add to that. One of the things that I most often hear about some of these things is people are intimidated. They think they've got to be at a certain level to attend. And and I've thought about that, like, okay, what was I doing my first year of playing guitar? And I realized I was trying to learn your transcription of Flight of the Bumblebee, Jennifer. I was trying to learn Steve Morse and Eric Johnson songs. I was watching DVDs of John Petrucci and stuff like that. And I realized, like, it doesn't matter that I wasn't able to just immediately play it or master it. The fact was that it got me so fired up to play that I put in more time and I got better just attempting to do something. So I just want to tell people, if you're on the fence and you think this might be too difficult or too advanced, I still think there's so much to be gained from it. I mean, and maybe even more if you're new at it. So, can I go through some of the questions we've got here? Okay, so Octavio Salas, who we know from being behind a cool collaboration that I won't mention yet because I'm not sure if it's public, but hey, Octavio, and thanks for being here. He says, hello, legendary fellows. A question for you all. How do you define the word musicality in your own words?
Oh man, that's super left brain.
First thing that came to my mind, and this is not thinking about it at all, it just came to me, following the muse.
Ooh, I like that. What about you?
I think I like the word musicality in itself. I don't.
How do you define it though? What does it mean to you?
It means to be able to express your thought in music, your emotion, wherever you want to express. Doesn't need to be an emotion. Can be a thought. Can be wherever. If we think that music is a language, try to be. To make sense. Try to. I don't know. Try to make sense with music. It's not easy.
I would say trying to get beyond the left brain. You know, the scales, the modes, the fingerings, all that nerdy ass stuff. Getting beyond that into communication only. It's like locking into some other vortex. Because you know there are nights if the sound really sucks or if things are just going bad. I know my brain goes to the left brain and I'm starting to think of shapes and arpeggios instead of playing music. So there's definitely a difference, and musicality is why you keep buying records from certain people because they're reaching you in a way.
Yeah, I think everything you guys said is spot on.
You, Gretchen.
Well,
you.
I think I agree with everything everybody said, and I think for me it's like it's creating music from a place of empathy with your listeners. So like Jennifer said, communication. Like Vicki said, the muses. The idea of simultaneously being the creator and the receiver of music. So not playing something that you yourself wouldn't want to hear. I think it's very easy on an instrument where the level of presumed virtuosity is so high to sometimes overcomplicate things, make something that's very impressive, but maybe not very, doesn't really communicate much, doesn't have that same, the beauty, the value of creating something that's beautiful as opposed to something that's very impressive. But I love that question, Octavio. And then Jennifer, there's some really nice comments I wanted to read to you. Let's see. Sorry, I'm scrolling back here. Brianna Alexis, by the way, hi Brianna, if you're here. She said, I was lucky enough to see Jennifer do a guitar clinic at a local music store in Garden Grove in 1986. You blew everyone out of the water.
Oh,
no surprise there. And Dave Lavallo says, Jennifer, thank you so much for your influence. You're an amazing player. I appreciate you and your influence on me. Much love and respect.
It's always great to know when you connect with people because sometimes you play a show and just keep moving from city to city, and I mean it depends on the size of the show. If they're smaller shows, we can hang with people afterwards, but the stadiums and big theaters, sometimes you're just whooshed off to the next city and you don't know if you've reached people. So thank you. You know what? Something I, like an idiot, I forgot. There's so much that is offered during these days of the weekend event. One other thing that one lucky winner is going to get, and this was offered by one of our alumni who has been paying it forward and offering scholarships to people going forward, is he's offered a free one-to-one lesson with Greg Howe.
And he's here right now saying that he's about, well, I don't know if I'm going to out him, or is he public?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so Werner asked, can we all bring our dogs to the rap party on Monday? My boy Harley, Great Dane, wants to meet Micah, who's Nili's new puppy. So thank you, Werner, for your continued support of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so cool. And Greg and I go back, NAMM shows was probably the first time I was aware of him and got his early records on Shrapnel. And he was the one guy I thought, on the last Michael Jackson tour, my mother was very ill, so I knew I would have to leave the tour at some point. And Greg is the guy that I called and said, can you sub on the biggest tour in the world with no rehearsal? And that's something. If it had been reversed and he asked me to do that, I'd say, oh, hell no, that is so stressful. And he did it, and they put my wig on him, and he stretched the hell out of that thing. I came back, and that was just falling off my head. And oh my God, I mean, can you imagine? He must have PTSD from that. And I'm sure we'll get the stories from him, because he will join us on the live stream on Monday, too, during the sponsor giveaway. So the winner gets to actually meet him on the day. But they flew him over, when I had to go, I had to go. He got the call. They booked him on a flight on the Concorde, which got him from America to Amsterdam in 3 hours. Boom. He's in the show with no rehearsal and putting on a wig and making a guitar explode.
It's giving me PTSD just hearing the story.
Right? Sweaty palms. Oh my God. I mean, he was well aware, well in advance. And I did send him my parts. But I think he didn't think it was going to happen that quick. So bless him for doing that. So somebody's going to get a really great lesson from him. Is there any more last minute questions?
Yeah, you guys, any last questions? We're going to wrap up in just a second here, but I've got my eye on the chat. So chime in if you want to ask anything.
If you want to know anything about anything, go to GuitarCloudSymposium.com. Please register for the weekend. We have a really fabulous looking blog. You can read about Greg on the blog and the lesson giveaway, and also find out the things that I listed off that are giveaways from all our fantastic sponsors. Everything's there. You can also listen to a sampler of all the teachers there and read bios. Everything's in one place. And we got more people coming up. In April, Greg Koch is going to join us and do a module on slide guitar and on tone. I begged him to do tone because he's got such a great tone. He uses Fishman Fluence pickups, and that's the reason I use them, because there's no better inspiration to try out some gear than to hear somebody else playing it and you go, okay, I must have this. So, and he's hilarious, so that's going to be really great. Any last questions?
Let's see. Werner asked, Greg learned the set by listening to a cassette tape on the plane.
That was the cassette days, the dangerous, or the history tour, I believe it was, in '97. I had sent him a cassette. It must sound awful. I don't ever want to hear it again, but I put a mic in front of my cabinet during a show. So he would know, there's several different guitar parts. I wanted him to know exactly what parts I was doing. And FedEx or express mail from Bulgaria took a month. So he didn't have much time with the material. And yeah, there's not too many people that could pull that off. So that says a lot about him.
Badass.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Badass.
Fishman is the bomb. You're right about that, Sheila. They have some incredible products, including the Fishman triple play wireless MIDI system, which Vicki always laughs because I have to say the entire thing every time I talk about the MIDI system. But it allows you to access all the sounds that keyboard players can access on your laptop. When I played with Jeff Beck and I was doing guitar synthesizer, I had a rack full of crap that the poor roadies had to haul around the world. And it was just dreadful. But now you take a MacBook Air, and you got like 10 times the amount of sounds that I ever had back then.
Crazy.
So we hope that you join us. It's gonna be a blast. I get so excited. I get, every day that it gets closer, I wake up and go, it's getting closer. It's closer to party time. And the Friday night is always fun. Getting to meet the new students and have the students hang with each other and find out about each other. And I always do a monthly free Zoom just for alumni, just to hang and see what each other has been up to. And I've learned a lot in there. I mean, people talk about gear that I wasn't aware of and, turn people on to this and that. Mike Melenda, former editor of Guitar Player magazine, showed up at the last one. So you never know who's going to show up or what will inspire you. And we have a members only Facebook page too that's very active. So there's a lot to love about Guitar Cloud Symposium. All right.
Tomorrow, me and you, Jennifer, we are doing an interview for fellow Italians, but not only, because we will talk in English actually. With and
What
then
time is
check
that going to be?
What? Sorry.
What time and where?
It will be 12:30 Pacific time. For you, what will be for?
Just
Yeah, I know.
Pages. I see time. I hear time.
Well, yes, time, please.
Time. But just go, guys. Just go on my page on Facebook, and we will have there will be a link. It will be streamed on YouTube and on Facebook.
Tomorrow, 12:30 Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll post it as soon as we hang up here too.
Great.
So
We will play a little bit also in stereo. Will be badass. We did the soundtrack today, badass.
all right. If there's any last questions, I'll get into the chat and answer them later. So thanks everybody for hanging out. That was a long one today.
Yeah, I know. I'm hungry.
Okay.
Yeah. And that tuning is pretty cool. So
Yeah, go play something. Vicki.
Wow. Let's hear it. Like,
really cool to have a 6 between the root and between the 6th and 5th string. I don't know, it's just nice. It's nice. It's different.
So now you have 38 tunings, Vicki.
38, thanks.
Okay, thanks everybody.
okay, bye.